My husband controlled our finances for years, until I found out why he never let me touch the accounts. My husband never missed his Monday afternoon errands. 3 years of marriage in autopilot, and every Monday at 3:45 p.m., he'd grab his leather briefcase, kiss my cheek and say, "Back soon, Viv." He never said where. He never said why. And I never asked, because in our house, questions about money were considered a sign of disrespect. But the day I followed him into the parking lot, still wearing my grocery apron, still smelling like lemons and receipt tape, he didn't see me. He went straight into First Midland Bank, nodded at the teller, and disappeared into the vault corridor reserved for safe deposit access. My stomach tightened into something sour and electric. Normal husbands make deposits at the counter. They don't vanish behind metal doors. When he finally came out 30 minutes later, he walked past me without noticing. I watched him tuck a manila folder into his briefcase and loosen his tie like he'd carried a secret too heavy for his collar. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Acting too soon can get you labeled as emotional. Waiting gets you information. My name is Vivian Calder, and 5 months later, I would learn those Monday visits had nothing to do with our future, and everything to do with hiding how quickly he was destroying it. People like to imagine financial betrayal as dramatic: suitcases, casinos, forged signatures. In real life, it sounds like paperwork sliding into drawers and spouses saying, "Don't worry about it." My husband Mark was a CPA. Taxes were his language. Precision was his religion. We'd been married 27 years, mortgage paid, 2 kids in college, retirement fund handled. He loved to call me lucky. Lucky not to deal with bills, lucky not to understand investments, lucky to have a man who managed everything. And the worst part? Everyone agreed. His mother bragged about his responsibility. My sister said I hit the jackpot. Even our daughter laughed that I couldn't balance a checkbook if my life depended on it. That's how financial abuse works. No bruises, no screaming, just a quiet kind of superiority that makes you feel stupid for asking basic questions. The first crack showed during Thanksgiving when our son Noah casually asked if a 529 could be rolled into a Roth IRA after graduation. Mark froze. Just a second. But I saw it. The flinch, the microsecond panic. Noah didn't notice. Kids rarely do until a structure collapses on top of them. After dinner, I found Mark in his office, staring at spreadsheets that didn't match our lives. Columns dipped where they should rise. Accounts labeled short-term. I walked away instead of asking. Information first. Confrontation later. The Monday routine didn't stop. If anything, it became more precise. 3:45 p.m. departure, 4:15 p.m. vault, 4:52 p.m. exit. I timed it. I charted it. I wrote patterns on receipts like a detective who didn't want anyone to see her case file. The shame wasn't that Mark was hiding something. The shame was that I needed to spy on my own husband to feel safe. In movies, betrayal comes with lipstick stains and late-night texts. In real marriages, betrayal hides in interest rates, refinancing, and "Don't worry about it, Viv, I've got us." December brought the first real alarm. Our joint Visa declined at Costco. I laughed it off to the cashier. We've probably hit our limit with holiday shopping. Mark took the card back too quickly, his jaw tightening as he swiped his personal one. In the car, he made a joke about fraud blocks. I smiled like a woman rehearsing normal. That night, while folding laundry, I checked our online banking for the first time in months. The joint checking had $912.74. It was usually around $14,000. The Vanguard retirement account login said access is suspended. The college fund showed maintenance review, whatever that meant. Instead of crying, I shut the laptop. I wasn't ready for the truth yet. But the truth was ready for me. The collapse didn't start with confrontation. It started with envelopes. White, windowed, sterile. 3 arrived in January from different banks. They looked like statements, but inside were notices. Second attempt, delinquent, payment required. Balances I'd never seen, accounts I'd never heard of, loans I certainly hadn't signed. When I confronted Mark, I expected shouting or lies. Instead, he laughed. "Viv, for God's sake, don't read those like a detective. Everything is under control. These are bridge loans. Temporary. Wealthy people do it all the time. Wealthy people. We were teachers and CPA middle class. Wealthy was not our zip code. No more envelopes," he said, grabbing the stack. "This is why I handle the finances. You stress over things that require calm. That sentence did something to me, split me down the spine, because calm wasn't kindness. Calm was control. 2 days later, my sister stopped by. Over tea, I tested the idea gently. Did Dad ever let you handle money? Her eyebrows rose. Viv, Dad taught me how to move salaries into bonds when I was 19. Why? I opened my mouth, closed it again, because saying it out loud made it real, and I wasn't ready to be married to reality. Not yet. The second crack was our daughter, Elise, home for spring break. Elise worshipped her father. He called her my accountant in training, even though she was studying psychology. One night she sat at the counter scrolling through tuition numbers, sighing about loans. Did Dad switch the funding plan? I can't find the 529 portal. My heart dropped. What do you mean? She turned her screen toward me. The account requires authentication, says it's inactive. Did Dad move it? Move it. The word tasted metallic. When Mark came home from Monday errands that week, Elise bounced into his arms like always. Dad, did you change the college fund platform? I can't log in. He froze. Same half-second micro-panic I'd seen at Thanksgiving. Then he smiled too widely. Just rebalancing assets. It's fine. It's growing beautifully. Elise believed him instantly. Not because it sounded good, but because children don't want to imagine the person they rely on could lie to their future. Later, Mark put his hands on my shoulders, voice soft, condescending. Viv, you're spiraling. Stop involving the kids. Involving the kids. That's when I realized the kids were already involved. They just didn't know they were players in someone else's financial disaster. The first institution to reveal the truth wasn't a bank. It was the university. Elise called from the campus bursar's office, voice tight, quiet, embarrassed. Mom. They're saying my tuition hasn't been paid for 2 semesters. Did Dad switch accounts without telling you? 2 semesters. My knees buckled. No, I said. He wouldn't, except he would. He already had. Mark downplayed it at dinner like it was a clerical hiccup. College billing is a mess, he said, chewing calmly. I'll handle it. Elise nodded, relieved to have a father who always had answers. I watched her shovel mashed potatoes into her mouth like normalcy could protect her from the future. That night, I checked the safe where we kept our documents, passports, wills, house deeds. The college fund folder was gone, so were 2 life insurance policies. There was a dent in the shelf where something heavy had once sat. Mark came into the room behind me. Viv, he sighed, voice low, you're creating drama where there is none. Please stop worrying. I am fixing everything. Fixing? Funny how the people who are breaking the structure always claim they're fixing it. I didn't argue. I needed proof, hard proof, before truth could touch air. Information first, confrontation later. The proof arrived in February in the form of a refinance notice. The bank wanted income verification for a new mortgage application, except we'd paid off our house 5 years ago. I stared at the letter, my hands shaking. Remortgaging paid-off homes was common in one demographic. People drowning quietly. I called the bank pretending to be Mark's assistant. We're reviewing our file, I chirped. The rep confirmed the refinance process had stalled over missing documents and debt-to-income issues. Debt-to-income, which meant debt existed, not imagined, not temporary, not wealthy people asset games. Debt. When Mark came home that night, I didn't mention the refinance. Instead, I said, let's do taxes together this year. His fork paused midair. I'll take care of it, he said instantly. Why not let me help? I asked. Because you're not good with numbers. Not good with numbers. Not good with money. Not good at understanding. Not good with the very tools that could free me. After he went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table and wrote a sentence on a sticky note. If he controls the information, he controls the future. I stuck it to the sugar jar where I'd see it every morning. Sometimes strategy starts with one true sentence. The second institution to speak was the CPA board, not directly, but through absence. Mark's firm suddenly stopped answering callers asking for him. His email signature changed from partner to consultant. Consultants don't get salaries. Consultants don't get benefits. Consultants don't get 529 plans fully funded on time. When I asked how work was, he said, strategic pause. That was a phrase designed to shut down questions without sounding alarming. I didn't push. I'd learned that cockroaches scatter when the lights flip on. I wanted him still, predictable, doing Monday vault trips like clockwork until I had the full map of the labyrinth he'd built without me. Elise visited for spring break. She and Mark watched basketball on the couch like nothing was wrong, laughing at plays, her head on his shoulder. When commercials came, she looked at me and said, "Mom, can you stop stressing?" Dad said everything's fine. There it was, the denial arc. Children defend the parent they rely on, even if the other parent is drowning silently in facts. That night, I Googled spousal financial abuse. I'd expected articles about gamblers and con men. Instead, it showed accountants, consultants, engineers, men trained in strategy. Men who protected their pride by hiding losses instead of admitting failure. Mark wasn't cheating with another woman. He was cheating with the future. The dam burst when the university called me directly. They couldn't reach Mark, so they reached the secondary contact. The woman on the line spoke with the careful tone banks use when telling customers something terrible without being rude. "Mrs. Calder, I'm so sorry to inform you, tuition has been delinquent for nearly a year, and the merit scholarship requires active financial compliance. If the balance isn't resolved, your daughter will lose her academic standing at semester's end." Lose her standing. Not just money. Identity, trajectory, self-worth. I felt something inside me switch from fear to calculation. "Can the account be updated under my name?" I asked. "Of course," she said, relieved I wasn't screaming. "But we'll need documentation." Documentation. Paperwork. Evidence. Institutions always require receipts before reality can change. When Elise came home that weekend, I told her about the call. Her face went red, then white, then tight with fury. Not at Mark, but at me. "Mom, Dad said you're overreacting. He said it's handled. Why are you always trying to make him look bad?" Always trying to make him look bad. That sentence sliced deeper than any infidelity could. Because what she didn't know yet was that I wasn't trying to make him look bad. I was trying to keep her from drowning. The breakthrough came from an accident, not a strategy. Mark left for his Monday vault ritual, but this time he forgot his briefcase. I stared at it on the dining room chair, pulse pounding. I wasn't a snooper by nature, but no woman should apologize for opening a door that leads to her own future. Inside were folders, thin, worn, wrinkled. Not investments, not wealth. Liquidations, loans, margin calls, delinquent notices, personal guarantees. The kind of paperwork men sign when they're betting against time. At the bottom was a printout labeled Divorce Financial Scenarios. Columns projected asset loss, retirement collapse, and house forfeiture. In 3 out of 4 scenarios, my financial survival depended on selling the house, losing the college fund, and accepting debt I didn't create. One line at the bottom read, "Viv cannot manage without guidance." I sat back, stunned. The betrayal wasn't financial, it was intellectual. He'd built a blueprint for my failure. When he came home, he noticed the briefcase had moved half an inch. His eyes flicked to me, calculating whether I knew anything. He smiled too kindly. "Everything okay, Viv?" For the first time, I matched his smile. "Perfect," I said. He didn't know I had crossed out the first sentence of his blueprint and replaced it with my own. Viv can and will learn. I didn't confront Mark. Confrontation gives the other person momentum. Instead, I gathered proof. I photocopied everything from the briefcase at the FedEx office across town. The clerk didn't even blink. Middle-aged women copying documents is so normal that no one imagines it's evidence. The next institution to confirm my fears wasn't a bank. It was the life insurance provider. I called to verify beneficiary updates. The rep hesitated. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Calder, your husband changed the primary designation last year." My hands tightened around the phone. To whom? Silence then. His mother. His mother. Not his wife, not his children. A beneficiary change is a confession disguised as paperwork. It says I anticipate collapse and I know exactly who I intend to protect when it happens. That night, Elise FaceTimed from her dorm. "Mom, Dad says taxes are delayed because of a software issue. Can you not make a big deal out of things? It stresses him out." Stress him out. Men crumble, and women are asked to manage the fallout quietly so nobody's pride gets bruised. After the call, I wrote a second sentence under my sugar jar note. Denial protects the liar, not the victim. I didn't tell Elise about the insurance policy, not yet. Timing determines outcomes. Most marriages don't explode, they leak. Ours leaked through little humiliations. The dentist declined our automatic payment. The grocery prepaid declined twice, the gas bill bounced. Each time, Mark had a story. Systems error, expired card, vendor glitch. Banks are incompetent. Banks aren't incompetent. Banks are merciless. And merciless institutions are extremely good at documenting reality. I visited First Midland Bank alone, not to access the safe deposit vault, but to ask one question. Does my husband have accounts under his sole name? The banker couldn't legally disclose balances, but she could confirm existence. She tapped keys, frowned, then said, multiple. Multiple was enough. On the way out, I passed the vault corridor, the same hallway Mark walked every Monday. A man in a gray suit opened a box in front of a couple. They stared at stacks of deeds and envelopes like a museum exhibit of wealth and fear. I wondered what was inside Mark's box. Proof of winning? Or evidence of drowning? That night, Mark brought home takeout like nothing was wrong. He reached for my hand across the table. Viv, I know you're anxious. I need you to trust me. The old me would have nodded. The new me smiled and laid right back. I do trust you. Trust buys time, and time buys proof. The first direct blow landed at 8:14 a.m. on a Wednesday. A foreclosure intent notice arrived by certified mail. Not final, not public, yet, but enough to strip every illusion from my marriage. Our paid-off house now carried a second mortgage, a third lien, and interest rates that read like punishment. I called Mark at work. He didn't pick up. I didn't leave a voicemail. Voicemails are emotional. Emails are evidence. I scanned the notice, attached it, and wrote one sentence, explain. He replied 2 hours later with a PDF titled, Repositioning Strategy, as if our home were a stock and I were an intern. The document blamed market headwinds, temporary liquidity shortages, and asset bridging. Financial words are arranged like sandbags to hold back the truth. At 6 p.m., he came home early, fingers trembling. Viv, I need you to calm down. The house is safe. Everything is temporary. Temporary. In collapsing marriages, everything is temporary, except the damage. We didn't sleep in the same bed that night. He claimed the guest room for spreadsheets. I listened through the wall as he typed until midnight. Not solutions, excuses. Men don't fix what they can explain away. Elise came home for Easter break and walked directly into the financial fallout, late notices, disconnected internet, and a mother asking for college statements she couldn't access. She confronted Mark in the kitchen. Dad, did you move the 529? He didn't deny it. He softened his voice, put a hand on her shoulder, and invoked his favorite shield. Sweetheart, this is adult stuff. Your mom doesn't understand how these things work. Everything I do is for this family. For this family. That's how people justify destruction, turning victims into beneficiaries. Elise turned to me, eyes wet. Mom, please don't make it worse. Not, is it true? Not what's happening, just the instinctive defense of the parent who performed her entire life. When she left the room, Mark whispered, You're embarrassing yourself, and you're confusing her. I laughed quietly, because Elise wasn't confused. She was loyal. Loyalty blinds harder than love. That night she sat on my bed with her laptop. Mom, just tell me we're okay. I opened my mouth, closed it, because telling the truth before evidence would only make me the villain in someone else's narrative. The daughter switch didn't happen with confrontation, it happened with paperwork. Elise logged into her federal student loan portal to apply for a forbearance and saw the numbers for herself. Not zero. Not manageable. Interest-devouring debt. She closed the laptop slowly, as the truth burned. Did Dad tell you about this? She asked. No, I said. Silence filled the room. Thick, embarrassed adult. She wasn't crying from sadness. She was crying from humiliation. Children believe their parents are competent until the world hands them math that says otherwise. Mom, how long has this been going on? Years, I said, because lying served no one now. She wiped her face, furious at herself for defending him. Why didn't you say anything? Because you would have believed him. She didn't argue, because she knew it was true. Downstairs, Mark typed spreadsheets like a man holding a leaking boat together with formulas. But denial had finally shifted. Not because I pushed, but because institutions spoke louder than parents. Next came the phase no one wants, legal clarity. Lawyers don't deal in feelings. They deal in documents. I brought a folder of photocopies from Mark's briefcase to Attorney Latham, a woman in her late 50s with silver hair and eyes sharp enough to slice excuses. She flipped through the refinance notices, foreclosure intent, and portfolio printouts without blinking. This isn't mismanagement, she said. This is concealment, possibly fraud. Possibly marital dissipation. She paused. Has he mentioned divorce? Divorce. The word carried weight, heavy, metallic. I shook my head. Then, these scenarios, she tapped his projections, are escape strategies. I felt nauseous. Your husband is preparing for a future where he leaves you holding liabilities you didn't create. I've seen this before. Men who'd rather burn through assets than admit they failed financially. Failed. That word didn't feel dramatic. It felt accurate. Step 1, she said. Get access to every joint account. Step 2, secure documents before he realizes you're securing them. Step 3, don't confront, not yet. Confrontation without leverage is surrender. When I left her office, Elise was sitting in my car. She'd skipped class. She opened the door without speaking, her eyes swollen from crying. I logged into Dad's Fidelity account, she said. It's not a strategy, Mom. It's a crash. That night, Mark asked why dinner wasn't ready. I didn't apologize. Priorities had changed. The humiliation came from the bank. Quiet, clinical, almost polite. 2 men in suits arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, asking for Mark Calder. I told them he was at work. They handed me a packet with a rubber band around it. Inside were final notices, repayment demands, and asset seizure warnings. None addressed to me, all tied to accounts with his sole signature. Elise came down the stairs halfway through my review. Her face hardened, not shocked now, but validated. Dad lied, she whispered, the words tasting like betrayal and adulthood at the same time. When Mark got home, he saw the packets on the table and froze. Viv, what have you done? I opened mail, I said. Nothing more. He gathered the papers, hands trembling. It's under control. Mark, Elise said, stop. That single word hit him harder than any accusation I could have thrown. He looked at her, his golden child, like she'd switched languages. Sweetheart, don't call me that, she snapped. You jeopardized my degree, you risked the house, you lied to Mom, you lied to all of us. His voice cracked. I was fixing it. No, she said, you were hiding it. He walked out of the kitchen, briefcase clutched to his chest like a life jacket. Denial had nowhere left to hide. The court hearing wasn't dramatic. There were no shouts, no gasps, no movie lines, just fluorescent lights, stale carpet, and paperwork signed in triplicate. The judge listened as Attorney Latham explained refinance timelines, account liquidations, loan structures, and concealment patterns. Mark tried to defend himself with financial jargon, asset repositioning, temporary leverage, projected returns. The judge leaned over his glasses. Mr. Calder, projections are not assets, and temporary leverage is still debt. For the first time, Mark looked small, not evil, not monstrous, just a man whose pride outran his competence. Latham argued for financial preservation, protecting the house, the college balance, and my credit. The judge agreed. He froze asset movements until full auditing could be completed and barred Mark from unilateral account actions. Outside the courtroom, Mark stared at Elise. I'm still your father. She nodded once, without warmth. And I'm still in debt because of you. Some betrayals change relationships. And then some betrayals end them quietly without anyone saying the word end. The audit confirmed what institutions had already whispered. Mark had been bleeding money for nearly 4 years. Bad trades, failed investments, unsecured loans, quiet panic, and pride layered like sediment. The college fund wasn't stolen. It was cannibalized. The retirement savings weren't lost. They were gambled on returns that never materialized. The foreclosure intent wasn't a threat. It was inevitability, delayed by paperwork. When Latham finished presenting the audit findings, she looked at me. You didn't fail, she said. You trusted. That's not a crime. What he did with that trust, that's the story. That night, Mark stood in the doorway of our bedroom. Viv, I just needed time. That's what I needed too, I said. Time to see Tot was real. He sat on the edge of the bed, hands covering his face. I didn't know how to tell you I'd failed. There it was, the truth, simple and devastating. Failure isn't betrayal, I said. Lying about failure is. He didn't answer, because there was no defense for that. The final financial blow came not from a bank but from a number, 0. 0 in the 529. 0 in the joint retirement, 0 in the emergency fund. 0 is a clean number. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't lie. Latham's ultimatum was simple. You can save the house or save the marriage, not both. I chose the house, not because of pride, but because it meant stability for Elise and Noah, and it meant Mark wouldn't get to turn my future into collateral for his ego anymore. When the court transferred property control to me, Mark didn't fight. Pride had finally exhausted itself. He moved into his mother's basement, poetic symmetry for a man who named her beneficiary over his wife. Elise stood with me on the porch as he loaded his suitcases into his car. "Do you hate him?" she asked. "No," I said. "Hate is heavy. I don't carry heavy things anymore." She linked her arm through mine and whispered, "Good. Because daughters don't need perfect fathers. They need mothers who survive. Financial rebuilding isn't dramatic. It's paperwork, hold music, emails at 1 a.m., and signatures that smell like bleach and consequence." I met with a credit counselor twice a week, negotiated interest, removed fraudulent inquiries, and opened a new account in my name. Vivian Calder crossed out, replaced by Vivian Hale, my maiden name restored like a lock clicking open. Elise took a work-study job at the university library. Noah started applying for scholarships with essays about resilience that made me cry into my coffee at 2 a.m. quietly, so they wouldn't hear. Mark tried calling. Not to apologize, he wasn't ready for that, but to explain. Men who sell futures always want to narrate the past. I didn't answer. Explanation is not restitution. Attorney Latham filed a marital dissipation motion. The state agreed that Mark's financial destruction was intentional, not mutual, and that college funds were protected assets under educational necessity. When the ruling came in the mail, Elise held the envelope and smiled for the first time in months. Small, fractured, but real. "Mom," she whispered, "we won something. Not everything, but something. And in survival math, something is everything." Mark didn't lose status because of the court. He lost it because of whispers. Bank failure spreads faster than divorce rumors. His coworkers stopped asking for stock tips. The men who once compared portfolios at cookouts shifted their eyes away. Pride-based identities collapsed silently, but completely. He sent emails with subject lines like "closure," "hear me out," and "can we talk as adults?" I archived every one without opening. Silence isn't anger. Silence is a boundary. The kids saw him twice. Awkward lunches in strip mall diners where he talked about new opportunities that would fix everything. Elise later admitted she'd researched the opportunities. They were MLM scams dressed in investor language. "He still won't admit it," she said. "Admitting means he'd have to feel it," I replied. Failures who refuse consequences always reinvent themselves as victims. The first scholarship award came in April, $12,000, renewable. Then another, and another. Not pity scholarships, merit, effort, performance. Elise earned what Mark tried to steal, her future. Noah's acceptance letter arrived in May, thick envelope, embossed seal. He walked into my room holding it with shaking hands. "Mom, I got in." I hugged him so tight I heard his shoulder pop. For years Mark told him college was a bad return, that he should invest early. But Noah wanted academics, not speculation. There's dignity in choosing a stable life over a flashy gamble. I sold old jewelry, paid off lingering balances, and refinanced the mortgage under my name only. The house appraisal came in higher than expected, proof that the home had more value than the marriage had left. When Mark learned the house was staying with us, he sent a single text. It was supposed to be mine too. I didn't reply. Ownership is not earned through paperwork alone. 1 year after the collapse, I stood in a community center classroom teaching a free financial literacy workshop for women. Credit scores, joint accounts, passive financial control, and early warning signs of identity theft within marriage. They took notes like it was survival training. Afterward, a woman in her 40s approached me. "My husband handles everything," she whispered. "He says I'm bad with money." I recognized the tremor in her voice, the kind you develop after years of being domesticated into dependence. "You're not bad with money," I said. "You're untrained. There's a difference. One is curable. The other is a lie." She nodded, swallowing tears. That was the point no one tells you about rebuilding. The win isn't status. The win is literacy. The win is autonomy. The win is never needing rescue again. Elise graduated in June. Honors Cord scholarships stole the dead out from under us. Tassels swinging against sunlight that felt undeserved and perfect at the same time. Noah lined up his textbooks for fall. My credit score recovered enough to refinance at a better rate than before Mark's collapse. A future rebuilt brick by brick, quiet, legal, boring to casual observers, but thrilling to anyone who's ever lived through financial betrayal. Mark showed up at the stadium entrance. thinner, wearing a suit that didn't fit his new life. Elise walked past him without slowing. "Dad," she said, "you should go home." He nodded, not arguing, not bargaining, just accepting. And acceptance was the first adult thing he'd done in 2 years. When we sat down for dinner that night, Elise said, "You didn't just save us, Mom, you taught us." I shook my head. "I learned too." "Learned what?" "That trust without transparency isn't love, it's a risk." She smiled. "So what now?" "Now," I said, "we build futures that don't collapse when someone lies." If you're still watching and listening to this story, tell me one thing. Do you think financial betrayal hurts more because of the money or because of who you trusted with it? My husband controlled our finances for years, until I found out why he never let me touch the accounts.